Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. I know it's late. I know it's really, really extra late with me coming on at this time, but I just felt a real impression to just come on and have a brief conversation with you, to share some things with you that's just been going around in my head and emerging within my spirit. And so I want to just take a few moments and share with you. We're not going to be on very long, 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most, if even that long. Go ahead and share if you'd like to, please. Hey, Bernadette, it's good to see you. Go ahead and share, if you please, on your page, and tag as many people as you can or as you'd like, and invite them over to be a part of this quick and very brief conversation, but a needful conversation. You see, I entitled it, Let's Get Real. Let's get real, and what it means to really get real. So I want to just have this conversation. I see you, Gloria, Delana. Good to see both of you on as well. Very quickly, just very quickly, I promise you I'm not going to be very long tonight. Not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but just, like I said, some things that are merging within my spirit. I felt the urgency to come on and just share it with you, and those who are on can get it now. Those who watch it on the replay, then they'll be able to get it then and glean from it as much as they possibly can. But I really want to share what it means to really get real, because I'm telling you, I've been sensing that we are on the verge of something is happening in the universe, in the atmosphere. Something's happening in society that is further shifting the paradigm of humanity, further moving it, and we are, as always, going through this evolutionary process where we are taking leaps and bounds forward. And with every evolution, with every revolution and evolution, as we began to ascend and emerge, then there comes greater opportunities that are there for us to step into, lean into higher dimensions of thought and function and operation, to become more consciously aware of ourselves and our own divinity, to exercise that divinity by way of manifestations of varying forms, that we are stepping into that moment, and that there is this dramatic, continuous evolution and shifting of the paradigm that is taking place. It has been going on now for the last couple of years, and intensifying with the passing days and months, and things are unfolding. And so whenever something like that takes place, there always seems to be an uproar, kind of a anxious chaos that takes place amongst humanity and in societies, especially certain pockets of society that have for years felt comfortable and entitled to a certain amount of privilege and power or authority. And so as the pendulum begins to swing and things begin to shift, then there is this feeling of angst and anxiety, as though something is wrong, but really nothing is wrong. Something is becoming right. It is becoming more right than it has been before, that there is a course correction taking place in humanity. And if you are a student of history, as I am, I'm a real history buff, then you recognize that there is a pattern of course corrections that take place just about every generation and a half, there is a dramatic course correction. And for just about every 60 to 100 years, there is this dramatic shifting, a dramatic course correction in humanity to recenter us and refocus us. And people start to awaken and become more consciously aware of their place and their purpose in society, aware of themselves, aware of their own divinity. They began to seek out answers, solutions that serve them and help them to grow and empower themselves spiritually. And they began to divorce and excise themselves from certain ideologies, dogmas, legalisms, and religions that had up until that point overridden them and gotten them to the place where their thoughts were no longer their own, their ideas, their perceptions were no longer their own, and they found themselves being led around by the nose based upon bad information or the thoughts and the ideologies and the beliefs of other people, and they lose track of themselves. Now, that is from a larger, broader historical standpoint, but I'm certain that I'm speaking to a number of you that are watching me right now that have gone through periods of times, and maybe you're in one of those periods right now where you feel like you're losing yourself, that you have become so bombarded with the cares and the affairs of life, are so entrenched and covered in certain attachments or relationships that you have almost melded and amalgamated into one with a particular thing, a place, or person, and you've lost your true sense of yourself. Either you've gone through it or you may be there now, and it's like, well, who am I really? What do I really like? What are my own personal values, my own personal goals? What are my aspirations? What is my authentic character? Or am I acting out a part that I have learned to play because of my surroundings, my environment, or this particular relationship has placed such a demand on me? A demand that, by the way, I readily, voluntarily submitted myself to and began to try and adapt in the name of keeping the peace, in the name of keeping the peace, and just want things to go smoothly. I don't want to lose this or them. And so you lose yourself in the moment. And now we are in this place, in this period of time, this season, where you are now beginning to extract yourself from those things, excommunicate them out of your life, and now pulling yourself away and divorcing yourself from those people, places, or things that have built up this fog in your mind. But as you come out of those relationships and step into the clarity of the fresh air of your authentic being, there is still that knowing and the unknowing of who I really am. It's not that your true self has been completely lost, but it is you have lost conscious awareness of your true and authentic self, and it's like you're having to learn all over again. What is it that you enjoy? What are the things that engender happiness in you? What are the things that bring you pleasure or excitement or joy or comfort, that you're having to learn all over again what it is that is really, what are the things that you truly value, what's really important to you, what is truly your character, or what is a triggered, learned response or behavior that I have adapted after being a part of this particular situation, circumstance, or relationship. And so when I talk about getting real, this is what I felt really impressed of the Spirit of God within me to share and to converse with you about tonight, is that you come to the place where you begin to unpack your soul and dig beneath the scabs, the scars, and all of the other things that have been piled on from those previous situations, circumstances, and relationships that cause you to lose track of who you really are, to go through the process of unpacking so that you can start to identify who you are. Why? Because I'm here to tell you that what's getting ready to enter your life, the opportunities that are about to come into your life, you're going to need to have a clear sense of your authentic self in order to have the courage, yes, the ingenuity, the wisdom, the know-how, and even to develop the skills necessary for you to be able to take this next leap and move forward in what it is that is presented to you. If you don't have a clear understanding, a clear sense of who you are, your true authentic self, then when the opportunities are presented, you will go in as an actor rather than as your authentic self. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a cliche, but it is true that God is not trying to bless who you pretend to be, who you've learned to be, but God blesses who you authentically are. That the oil flows, that anointing oil flows from your authentic self. Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen, that the anointing, your greatest capacity, ability, and skill, it flows through your authentic self, not the self that you have learned to be, not the self that you've adapted in order to survive a particular situation, circumstance, or relationship, not the self that you pretend to be in order to garner the acceptance of this group, that group, or another group, but the anointing, this great force, power, energy flows it at its greatest frequency, highest frequency, when you are operating from the place of your true and authentic self. Are you hearing what I'm saying? There is a text, I'm trying to remember exactly where it is. There is a text, I think it's in Romans chapter, I can't remember, but I know there's a text in Romans that says, not Romans, I'm sorry, it's in 2 Corinthians. It's 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians, where the author is Paul, and he says, he encourages that all of us should not think more highly of ourselves than what we ought, but to think soberly. Listen to what that text says. It's a very important principle that is highlighted and presented by the apostle. He says that every man should not think of himself more highly than he ought, but to think soberly. Now, I don't want you to start thinking in terms of quality in the terminology that's used, because he says highly. But it's important that you not think unauthentically about yourself, whether it is higher than what you ought or lower than what you ought, but that you have a true, authentic sense of who you are in this very moment, along with an understanding or a vision of what you are becoming and in what's emerging within you. But you have to have a clarity, a truthful, authentic view of your genuine self, who you are. Because if you don't have a clear understanding of who you are, you don't understand what you're capable of, what your potential is, what your talent, your abilities are, and you don't know the areas where you have to work and develop and grow and evolve. If you are not clear about your present position, your present state of being, then it leads to confusion and it stunts and slows your growth. But when you approach life with a clarity of authenticity, clarity of who you are, clarity of personhood, of being, then you know what you are capable of. You know your capacity, your talents, your skills, your abilities, and you also have a clear understanding of those things that are your, quote, weaknesses that you need to give more attention to, more time to, that you need to work on, build on, develop, and to grow with. When you have that clear assessment, then you can begin to develop and began to grow and speed along the process of your becoming a ascended master. Oh, listen to what I just said, because every single one of you has the capacity to become an ascended master. All of us do. To walk, talk, move, and live just as the person Jesus. This is why Jesus said that everything you've seen me do, you can do also. He wouldn't say it was possible if it wasn't possible. He says that if you have the capacity, the ability, and the potential to do everything that you've seen me do, to operate, function, and move just as I did, to navigate this three-dimensional plane with the same ascended power and being and essence as Christ. As a matter of fact, in Romans chapter 8, it says that you were predestined. You and I were predestined, predetermined to be conformed into the image of the Son. That is to say, to walk as ascended masters in the earth, having a command of all of the powers, abilities, authorities that are invested in us, invested in our spirit. So it's important that you have a clear understanding of who you are. It's been 21 minutes and 40 seconds. I've got to quit because I didn't intend to stay on very long. I know that it's late and many of you have to get up very early in the morning, so I don't intend to keep you on here, but I do want to mention one other thing. I want to mention this thing, that this is what really just that began to permeate my mind and really just repeating. It was like a record on repeat in my head. I kept hearing emerging from my spirit, the Spirit of God speaking from within, saying to be mindful of your blind spot. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Listen to what I'm saying to you, people. This is what the Spirit of God is saying to me, through me, as me, to you. Now you receive it if you will, if you choose not to. If it's not for you, okay. But this is what I heard. Be mindful of your blind spot. This is about getting real. Be mindful of your blind spot. You should write that down in your notes if you're taking notes. Be mindful of your blind spot. Be mindful of your blind spots. In medical terms, the blind spot is a place in the visual field that corresponds to the lack of light detecting in the photoreceptor cells, receptor cells of the optic disc of the retina, where the optic nerve passes through the optic disc. In other words, it is that part of our eye physiologically where the light is not coming through. And so we have a physical blind spot. We can only see as far as the light illuminates, but when we try and look beyond that area, it's like it's darkness because it's blind. But ladies and gentlemen, that is not just true physiologically, but we also have emotional blind spot, knowledge blind spots. Are y'all hearing me? Behavioral blind spots, and yes, spiritual blind spot. We all suffer in some way or another from these different states of blindness. Some of us with several different blind spots that we don't necessarily see about ourselves, because we look at ourselves from a purely subjective point of view. The hardest thing to do is to take a step back, step away from the self, from yourself, and look at yourself objectively to get an honest assessment of who you really are. This is one of the reasons why it's important to have good, solid, healthy relationships and accountability partners, or even leaders that you can make yourself accountable to, so that others can be real friends. Those are the ones who are going to be honest with you about you. Not talk about you, but talk to you about you, so that they can give you an honest assessment. In Corinthians, Paul says that there are those who judge themselves by themselves are not wise. Listen to that. Listen to that principle. Those who will judge themselves by themselves are not wise. In other words, he's saying that often other people outside of ourselves can see us better than we see ourselves. We operate from the subjective, and so you may say a thing and you know what your motive is, you know what your intent is, and you have no maliciousness, anger, or bitterness whatsoever, and so you just say it. But then it's not just how you say it, it's how the person receives it. How is it coming across? You are completely unconscious in many cases of how you're coming across, because you are only focused on what your motive and your intent is. And because your motive is pure and your intent is good, you don't even think about how it might be received. I spoke the truth. What they getting mad for? They must be mad because they don't want to hear the truth. truth, or it might be your presentation. Are you understanding what I'm saying? And so, because we think subjectively, we think from what we think, what we feel, what we are sensing within ourselves, our own motives, our own intent, not taking into account how you necessarily come across. And I'm here to tell you that the opportunities that are about to be presented to you and already have been presented for some of you that are watching me right now, you are going to have to be very consciously aware of your authentic self and how you present yourself, how you come across. Ladies and gentlemen, please understand, all of us have blind spots. All of us have parts of our thinking, our being, our behavior, our emotions, our spirituality that we have just taken for granted, and we look at it through a tunnel and we only see what's right there that we are focused on and don't necessarily see what's coming from the peripheral. We don't have a panoramic view of what it is that we're really observing. And so when you look at it in a vacuum, in a tunnel, it obscures your view of things. And ladies and gentlemen, what I am saying to you tonight is that you have got to peel back the boundaries of the tunnel and get a clear view of who you really are. Let no man think inauthentically or more highly of himself than he ought. But here's the next part of the principle. But let every man think soberly. Soberly. So to be sober is the opposite of being intoxicated or drunk. And what happens is that we have these outside and some interior influences that have come into our way of thinking, way of feeling, way of believing, way of reacting, and they have intoxicated, yes, infiltrated our being unto the place they've become so familiar to us that we've come to the place where we just say, that's just who I am. That's just how I am. That's just me. That's me, child. That's how I think. That's the way I act. Oh, you just got to know I respond that way. I got a quick temper. I got a sharp tongue. I got this or I got that. As if you have absolutely no control and you've identified with the behavior that's not yours, but that has been given to you and has become learned. And it is so natural to you that now you are not even consciously aware of when you're doing it, when you are behaving in that way or thinking in that way or feeling in that way. It is automatic triggered by all of these external forces and existences that come into your life. And having, oh my goodness, an honest assessment of yourself means that I have to start questioning, why am I acting this way, thinking this way, feeling this way, responding this way? What is it that's triggering me? How am I perceived by others? Not that how others perceive me determine who I am, because it doesn't. But it does determine how you come across. Let me say it again. How others perceive you does not determine who you are. Absolutely not. But it does absolutely determine how you come across. And how you come across is as important as who you are. So you have to be mindful of your blind spots. Ooh. All right, I know, again, it's late. It's almost 10 o'clock. So, I didn't intend to be on long. I promised you I was just going to be here for a few minutes, and I am. I want you to keep that in your mind. I want you to start to think over it, meditate on it. Mull over it tonight before you go to bed, before you lay head to pillow. Take some time and look inward at yourself. Begin to examine your behaviors, your thought patterns, your emotional responses, and begin to examine and ask yourself the hard questions. Where did this come from? Why do I behave or feel this way? Is this really me, or is this a learned behavior? And if you don't have any real authentic friends, I don't know what to tell you. You need to find some. You need to connect with some people who are going to authentically love you unconditionally and love you enough to be honest with you about you. And then without judgment, without anger, without response, just receive what's being said. Listen to me. When someone who loves you says, this is something that I perceive about you, and you see it as a negative, you don't need to respond. What you need to keep in mind is they are speaking from the place of love. And so what do I lose? What do you lose? By just, even if you don't see it, don't agree with it at first, what do you lose by saying, you know what? Maybe that is true. So let me examine me. Let me see what I can do to shift or change. What I can do to improve. What do you lose? You don't lose a thing, but you do gain an opportunity to grow and to evolve. I understand you being a little defensive and leery when it comes from people that don't know you or people that you perceive as an enemy, which they're really not, but you understand what I'm saying. But when it comes from people who you know love you, that's the time for you, even if you don't agree, just take a step back and then consider what's being said to you as it's coming from a source of love, and recognize that I don't lose anything by addressing it and doing something to try and fix it and correct it. Man, I got a lot more to say. But I don't have any more time. I'm going to stop right here. I pray that this blesses those of you who are watching tonight, and then those of you who are watching on replay as well. I pray that you're blessed by it. You can inbox me with any questions that you might have if you need to further the conversation. And I don't know, maybe I'll continue the conversation tomorrow or the next night. I don't know, but I just felt a really strong, intense push to come and share with you that you have to be mindful of your blind spots. Be very mindful of your blind, because you're going somewhere. Listen to me. I'm through. I promise you I'm through. But listen to what I'm telling you. You are getting ready to go somewhere. Many of you that are watching me right now are getting ready to walk into the best season and the best moments of your life. That there are such opportunities that are coming your way, doors that are opening, and opportunities for you to step into fulfilling and living out your dream. And you don't want to go and approach these moments ill-prepared. You want to be fully equipped and prepared for them so you can embrace them, walk into them, and fully get the full benefit of the opportunity. I'm telling you, I know it like I know my own name, that it's happening even as I'm speaking to you tonight. New opportunities, doors, windows, portals are opening up for you both naturally and spiritually, and you want to be fully prepared for when those opportunities present themselves. And so be mindful of your blind spots. Do a real, legitimate, hard, deep dive analysis of yourself, because your only enemy is enemy, the inner me. Thank you for listening to me for this brief moment. If you want to sow, you can do that. I appreciate it. Every love gift is very important, and your generosity is greatly appreciated. I look forward to sharing with you again real soon. Y'all have a really good night. I love each and every one of you. Thank you.